You never really expect to be abandoned by the people who once swore they'd protect you. Not in the middle of a foreign country. Not when your name is written on the return ticket that somehow doesn't exist anymore. But when they walked away from me, boarding their flight with a smile that barely flickered with guilt, they believed it was over. They didn't realize they just started something they couldn't finish. Because I didn't scream. I didn't run. I didn't collapse. I stood there, luggage by my side, heart in pieces, and I began counting. Not hours, not days, but debts, emotional, financial, and moral. They had no idea that while they were enjoying a complimentary in flight champagne, I was writing a new ending to the story they tried to erase me from. But let me tell you how we got there so you understand what I took and why I took it. It began as betrayal often does softly. Axel wasn't a monster, he was worse. He was charming, well dressed, disarming. A man with a voice that knew how to sound concerned without actually caring. The kind of man you believe until you've bet everything on him and he vanishes behind someone else's opinion. For me, that someone else came in a pair, Millie and Tiago. His parents. Two people who made passive aggression an art form and turned exclusion into routine. When I first met them, they looked through me, not at me, as if I were a passing inconvenience in a story already written. At dinner, they had set 3 plates for themselves and for Axel. I was expected to stand or disappear or understand somehow that I wasn't welcome. Axel never flinched. He smiled politely, ate quietly, and said nothing when I pointed out the oversight. It's just how they are, he whispered afterward, as if bigotry were a personality trait. And I stayed. Because women like me, strong on the surface, loyal to a fault, were taught to excuse things, to keep the peace, to play nice in someone else's war zone. So I did. I played their game, sat at their table, smiled while swallowing their contempt. At the wedding, I was civil. I let them hug me for photos. I pretended we were one big, dysfunctional, expensive family. When they offered to upgrade our honeymoon to Europe and demanded to come along, Axel said yes without asking me. And I didn't protest, not loudly, because I still thought marriage was about sacrifice. It wasn't until we landed in Italy that I realized I was the only one doing the sacrificing. They criticized my outfits too loud, too casual, too American. They picked at my food choices, making comments about my weight when I ordered pasta instead of salad. Millie once told me in front of strangers that I should dress more like a diplomat's wife. And Axel, he laughed, or worse, looked away. It was 1,000 tiny paper cuts, each too small to scream about, but deep enough to bleed trust. But the final slice didn't come from them. It came from him. On the last day of the trip, I packed quietly, holding back tears. I had my documents ready, my luggage zipped. All I needed was the ticket. I don't have it, Axel said. Just like that. No concern, no follow up, no offer to check. I stared at him, heart pounding. What do you mean you don't have it? I think Mom took care of it. So I asked Millie, and she smiled that cold, soft smile I'd learned to fear. We forgot, she said. You can buy one yourself, can't you? The words weren't the worst part. The tone was casual, offhand. Like forgetting me was a weather report. Like I was meant to shrug it off, thank them for the ride, and vanish. I turned back to Axel. He couldn't meet my eyes. They paid for the whole trip, he said, as if that canceled out responsibility. As if money could excuse betrayal. And I knew in that instant that no one was coming to save me, but also I didn't need them to. Because the thing about being abandoned is that it forces you to remember you've been standing alone far longer than you admitted. I found my way home, alone. No ticket offered, no call, made no apology waiting. But when I stepped through the door of the house I'd been quietly paying off for a year, every mortgage bill in my name, every savings account dipped into, I realized something that turned the pain into purpose. This wasn't just their house, it was mine. I had been the financial backbone of a family that mocked me. I had been paying off the debt that Axel accidentally inherited from his parents. I had cleaned up his financial messes while he lounged on weekends. I had smiled through dinners while they smirked behind napkins. And now it was time to stop bleeding for people who never brought bandages. I called Abby, my best friend, the one person who always answered on the first ring. And Max, her husband, a property lawyer with a brain as sharp as his patience was short. When I told them everything, they didn't ask, "Are you sure?" They asked, "How fast do you want to move?" Max didn't waste time. "You've been making the payments alone," he asked. I nodded. Every single one, I said. Since he passed the mortgage to me, since he said he needed a break. Max looked over the loan documents I forwarded that night, his tone calm but dangerous, like a scalpel, not a hammer. "You're the only name on the payments. That means something." Abby leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "It means this house is yours, Phil. Not just emotionally, legally." It's strange the moment you realize your pain has turned into power. At first, you feel nothing, then everything at once: rage, relief, shame, pride. It's like watching a dam break and realizing the flood is yours to direct. I had never thought of myself as someone who'd issue an eviction notice. I still believed in second chances, in quiet forgiveness. But this wasn't about spite. It was about correction. For months, I had been drowning under the weight of Axel's comfort. He had lounged while I worked overtime. He had smiled in photos while I skipped lunches to pay interest. He had rested knowing someone else was absorbing his consequences. No more. Max drafted the paperwork, fast, efficient, cold. "Once we file this," he said, "they'll have 30 days to vacate, unless you want to give them less." Given the circumstances, I shook my head. 30 is fine. I'm not cruel. I said it, and part of me believed it. But another part, the one they had tried to extinguish, whispered, "They didn't give you even 3 hours." Abby stayed with me that night. We sat in silence, wine glasses untouched on the table. "What if he begs?" I asked. "He will," she replied. "But you've already heard his apology." It sounded like silence. The next day, I packed the rest of his things. Not with fury, with precision. Each shirt folded, each drawer emptied. I didn't leave a note. He hadn't left a ticket. It was a strange feeling walking through the house. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It was clean, uncluttered, honest. It was mine. And when I checked his return flight 4 hours from landing, I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. He had no idea. Not about the paperwork, not about the eviction, not about the woman I'd become while he was sipping espresso with his mother in Rome. They walked through the front door at 7:42 p.m. sharp. I heard the key fumble in the lock, saw the silhouette shift behind the glass. When it opened, I stood in the center of the living room, calm, clear, composed. Axel stopped. His parents stepped in behind him. Millie's smile faltered the second she saw me. "What are you doing here?" Axel asked. His voice cracked at the end, weary from travel, still cocky from comfort. "This is my house now," I said. He blinked, laughed, waited for a punchline. I didn't offer one. Millie's voice sharpened. "Excuse me?" I held up the stack of papers. Eviction, divorce, mortgage reassignment. "Everything you left behind, I've sorted it." Axel stepped forward. "You can't do this." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. "You stopped paying for this house." I didn't. "You left me in Italy. I came back. You gave up on this marriage." I didn't, but now I'm done, Axel. His mouth opened, then closed. No words. Just a stunned, sinking realization that this time I wasn't bluffing. "You don't have to do this," he muttered. "No," I replied, "but I am." Tiago growled something under his breath. "You ungrateful." I cut him off. "You left me in a country where I didn't speak the language, without a phone plan or a hotel. You stood beside your son while he walked away from me like I was luggage. And you expect gratitude." He turned red. Millie reached for Axel's arm. "Tell her this is a joke, that this isn't legal." I didn't even look at her. I looked at him. "This is very legal," I said, "and very permanent." He stared at the papers. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Wherever you went when you left me." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't crumble. They had expected a broken woman, a humiliated wife. They got a homeowner with a lawyer on speed dial. They left that night. Not in a blaze of drama, just silence, defeated, boxes in hand. And as the car pulled away, I stood at the window watching the taillights disappear, the same way my husband once watched my voice disappear behind his parents' opinions. That night I slept. For the first time in a year, I slept with the door locked, not to keep danger out, but to keep peace in. Over the next few weeks, the process unfolded like clockwork. Court filings, property adjustments, divorce proceedings. Axel tried to stall, tried to delay, but the more he fought, the more obvious it became. He didn't have the resources, he didn't have the case, he didn't even have a rental agreement. Max handled it all. Abby stayed beside me through every meeting. "You're not alone anymore," she kept reminding me. And for once, I believed it. I wasn't healing, I was evolving. Every legal document I signed wasn't just paperwork, it was a wound closing, a scar forming. Not a mark of weakness, but survival. A few months passed. I heard whispers. Mutual friends mentioned Axel was staying with cousins in another town. That Millie and Tiago had gone back to work retirement evaporated like their retirement fund. That they were shocked I would do something so spiteful. But spite is petty. This was justice. Every time I doubted myself, I remember the airport, the silence, the empty chair, the absence of a boarding pass. I remembered how easy it was for them to forget me. And I remembered that I hadn't been paying for their lifestyle with the currency of my peace. So I stopped paying, and I started living. I replaced the photos in the hallway. I painted the bedroom wall a bold new color. I got a dog, something Axel always claimed we were too busy for. And every night as I walked through a house no longer haunted, I repeated the same line in my mind. They left me with nothing, so I took back everything they never deserved. It's strange what emptiness teaches you. Not the kind that screams when someone leaves, no. The quieter kind. The kind that sits beside you on a Tuesday afternoon while you drink coffee in your own kitchen and realize no one is coming to take your peace away. I used to live in fear of confrontation, fear of causing waves, fear of being too much. Now, I wake up in a house I own on land I paid for with no one raising their voice because I asked for kindness. No one twisting my words into weakness. No one draining me with expectations disguised as tradition. I kept waiting for guilt to show up, for the shame to slide under the door like fog. But it didn't. It had already done its job. It lived its life and died the day I stood in that living room and said, "This is mine." Because ownership isn't just about property, it's about story. And this chapter, it's not about revenge, it's about return. The return to myself, my voice, my strength. Axel called twice after the eviction. The first time he didn't say anything, just silence on the line like a child afraid to speak in class. The second time his voice cracked. "I didn't know what they were doing," he said. But the truth was he did. He knew every time he looked away when Millie made a dig at my weight. He knew when Tiago joked about American women and their whining. He knew when he bought 3 tickets and forgot the fourth. He just hoped I'd forgive him one more time. And I almost did. Until I remembered how many times I'd sat alone in a crowded room, pretending not to notice the looks, the whispers, the subtle humiliations dressed as family dynamics. "I don't hate you," I told him. His breath caught. "Then why are you doing this?" I paused because I don't hate myself anymore either. Click. Some stories end in explosions. Mine ended in stillness. No screaming, no final showdown, just a closed door and a new beginning. I started working fewer hours. Picked up pottery. It sounds cliche. I know the woman healing through clay, but there's something therapeutic about shaping something with your hands after years of trying to hold together what was falling apart. I saw Abby every week. We laughed more, I cried less. Max sent me updates on the divorce proceedings, all moving faster than expected. Axel didn't contest the property reassignment. Not because he agreed, but because he couldn't afford to argue. It turns out when you outsource your adulthood, you end up with nothing to stand on. His parents tried to send a letter once, handwritten, flowery, full of misunderstandings and regrets. It ended with a request to reconsider the eviction. I didn't reply. I folded the letter into four neat squares, slid it into a drawer, and forgot it. Because forgiveness doesn't mean reentry, and closure doesn't require conversation. Months passed, seasons changed. I forgot what his cologne smelled like. I stopped flinching when someone mentioned honeymoon. I smiled without effort. One night, while walking my dog through the neighborhood, I passed a young couple arguing on their porch. The woman's voice cracked. I'm tired of being the only one fighting. And it hit me I wasn't her anymore. I wasn't the woman begging someone to choose me. I wasn't the ghost in someone else's narrative. I was real, I was present, and I was home. Not just in the house, but in myself. The final court date was quiet, routine. I sat beside Max in a clean blazer, no makeup, no fear. Axel was 2 rows ahead, alone. When the judge stamped the divorce order, I didn't cheer, I didn't cry. I exhaled, not because it was over, but because I had carried the weight long enough. Afterwards, Axel approached me, hesitant, smaller. I'm sorry, he said. I nodded. Okay. He looked surprised. That's it. What else is there? I thought maybe you'd want to talk. I did, months ago. His eyes fell to the floor. And for the first time, I didn't try to lift him. He left, again, but this time it didn't hurt, it just made space. I wish I could tell you there was a grand rebirth, a lightning bolt moment when I became someone new. But healing isn't cinematic. It's the dishes done on time, the coffee brewed just right, the silence that doesn't ache anymore. It's boring, soft, unremarkable. But it's yours. One day while cleaning out the attic, I found an old photo of us, smiling. Paris in the background, a lie captured forever. I stared at it for a moment, then placed it face down in a box. Not out of anger, out of peace. Because not every memory needs to be burned. Some just need to be archived away from the light where they can't distort the present. They say the best revenge is living well. I disagree. The best revenge is not thinking about them at all. It's going through your day without their voice in your head. It's making decisions without bracing for their judgment. It's building a life that doesn't need explanation, permission, or validation. They left me stranded overseas, but they forgot I know how to return home. Not just with a boarding pass, with a mission, with a mirror that doesn't lie, with the knowledge that I didn't just survive their abandonment. I grew from it. And in that growth, I didn't just take back the house, the title, the finances. I took back something far more valuable, me. They say freedom is the absence of chains. But I've learned it's not just about what you escape. It's about what you choose next once no one's holding your hand or your leash. After the court dates, after the awkward condolences from mutual acquaintances, after the last email from Millie begging me to remember the good times, something inside me went still. Not cold, not bitter, just still, like the ocean at dawn. My phone was quieter, my inbox lighter. My weekends no longer spent anticipating drama disguised as obligation. And for the first time in years, I woke up each morning not wondering who I needed to be for someone else. I just was. I took long walks. I read again, not just articles on financial survival, but novels, poems, essays on women who outgrew cages. I cooked food that I liked even if it wasn't refined enough. I wore sweatpants and didn't apologize for it. And slowly, without realizing, I began to dream again. It started with something small, a ceramics class, the kind with dusty aprons, messy hands, and zero pretension. Just clay breath and rhythm. At first, I was terrible. Sloppy bowls, uneven edges. My instructor, a woman named June with silver braids and unapologetic laugh lines, watched me struggle with a smile that said good. This isn't about perfection, she told me. It's about presence. Something about that hit me like a prayer. I had spent so long trying to be the right kind of wife, the appropriate kind of daughter-in-law, the polite kind of woman. Always shrinking, adjusting, recalibrating. Now here I was, hands deep in earth with no one to impress. Just the raw material and me. Week by week, I got better. My bowl stopped wobbling, my hands steadied, and one day I shaped a vase that didn't collapse. I cried in the parking lot after class, not because I had mastered anything, but because I had let go fully. And from that moment on, my life became mine again, piece by piece. I started saying yes to things I used to cancel: brunch with old friends, weekend road trips, painting my walls a ridiculous mustard yellow just because it made me laugh. I rearranged my living room. I sold Axel's old bookshelf and replaced it with plants. Not out of spite, but because light had finally found its way into the corners again. One afternoon, while walking through a local arts market, I saw a vendor selling hand thrown pottery, gorgeous, imperfect pieces, each with a story. The woman behind the table smiled at me like we knew each other. "You ever work with clay?" she asked. I laughed. "I do now." She nodded toward the empty space beside her. "We're looking for more artists next month." I hesitated, then wrote down my name. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't even about the art. It was about reclaiming the parts of me that had once been too quiet to speak. Within weeks, I had a tiny booth, a humble collection of bowls and cups stamped with fingerprints and pride. I named my table Still Fired. A little joke, a little truth. People stopped, bought, complimented. I didn't care if I sold out. I had already gained more than they could see. One woman, older with eyes like glass, picked up a crooked mug and said, "This feels like someone who survived something." I smiled. She did. You don't always notice when life gets better. It doesn't announce itself, it just slips in. It's the dog curling up beside you without asking. It's the breeze through the open window during a nap you no longer feel guilty taking. It's the laughter that bubbles out during a phone call and you realize it's yours. No one scripted it. No one approved it. It just came from you. One evening, I got an email, a simple subject line: "Hope you're well." Axel. I stared at the screen, felt nothing. Not anger, not longing, not fear, just stillness. I opened it. I wanted to say thank you for everything you did. I wasn't ready then. I don't know if I ever was, but I've thought about it a lot. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I didn't know how to hold that. I hope you're happy. I read it twice, then closed the laptop and went back to glazing a bowl. Because some endings don't need answers, only boundaries. Months later, at that same market where I first set up my table, a man named Daniel stopped by. Soft spoken, smart eyes. He picked up a bowl I had accidentally cracked during firing. "This one's got character," he said, grinning. I dropped it, I admitted. He nodded, still beautiful, maybe because of it. We talked. He bought it. Said he liked pieces with stories. He came back the next weekend, and the one after that. We went for coffee, then dinner, then a hike I almost canceled but didn't. I told him everything eventually, not to scare him off, but to show him I no longer bled from the past. He didn't flinch, didn't ask me to explain more than I wanted to, didn't act like loving me was a favor he was granting. He listened, he stayed. But here's the part I didn't expect. Whether he stayed or not, I knew I'd be okay. Because I had already come back from the place where I thought I couldn't survive alone. And when you come back from that, you never again forget your own strength. So, yes, they left me stranded overseas. But I didn't just make it home. I built one. Not out of borrowed kindness or inherited expectations. Out of truth, out of fire, out of silence turned into music. They thought they had taken everything. But what they really gave me without meaning to was a return to self. And I took that gift the way you take back something long stolen. Quietly, completely, without apology.